O come, thou Lord of might. In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. And John the Baptizer appeared in the wilderness. I have seen that wilderness. And until then, all I knew about wilderness was from fairy tales, and when I came to New Hampshire, from our familiar Pemigewasset wilderness, which is 45,000 acres full of trees and chasms and rivers, and in which you can easily get tangled and lost. Well, the wilderness of Judea is nothing like that at all. Dan, show us the wilderness of Judea. There's nothing in it. Barren, gray mountains, deep ravines, and I understand that in Old Testament times there were lions. No wonder the people of Isaiah's community called for a straight highway through that wilderness. No wonder they wanted to make it smooth, every valley exalted, and every mountain and hill made low, and the rough places plain. They needed all the help they could to get through that wilderness. You can take it down now. Now both meet this definition that is given in the U.S. Wilderness Preservation Act, the act that made the Pemigewasset wilderness possible for us. And that definition is a wilderness, in contrast with those areas where man and his works dominate the landscape, is hereby recognized as an area where the earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man, where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. An area where the earth and its community of life are untrammeled by man. In the Bible and in our own day, wilderness connotes space and perhaps time. And it connotes chaos, where there is no such thing as space and time. It is seen as a passageway, never a destination, a place where man himself is a visitor who does not remain. For Isaiah and his readers, this wilderness was invoked, the state of exile that they were experiencing in Babylon. Now, the hand of man was to be seen all over Babylon. It was a great city, well ordered by human endeavor. We've all heard of the Hanging Gardens, after all. You can see their artwork if you go to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. But nonetheless, the Israelites in exile there saw it as a wilderness because there they had been uprooted from their sources of meaning, which was worship in Jerusalem at a temple that was. They wanted a highway for God to come through that wilderness to them and lead them out. And they didn't want God to have any trouble getting there. And so here we are today. The Israelites in Isaiah's day had about 50 years in the wilderness. We've had about 50 weeks of stumbling around, 50 weeks when the devices of human creation seem not so reliable anymore, and we feel vulnerable. You see, Advent has a way of redirecting our attention to the real Lord of might, directing our attention to our helplessness at this time of vulnerability. It's kind of like what Samuel Johnson said. Depend on it, sir, when a man knows he is to be hanged in a fortnight, it concentrates his mind wonderfully. Advent is a time to concentrate our minds on our vulnerability, our helplessness, because when we do that, we are better able to see God at work. Wilderness, if it is a place or a time, is what we call a liminal place or time. The word liminal comes from it means threshold. It means threshold. So in liminal places and in liminal times, we are on the threshold between one thing or another. We are on a passageway, not a destination. Isaiah's people were at the threshold of something new. They would return to Jerusalem. They would rebuild the temple, and they would rebuild their religion. The Baptist people were at the threshold of something new, expecting God to intervene in history and to ordereth all things mightily. And so are we at a threshold. We are at the threshold of a new economy, a new political landscape that we can't even imagine, a new church, and I mean church with a big C, a demonstration of faith that we are only beginning to imagine. And you, my friends at St. George's Church, you are also at a threshold of your own, the calling of a new rector and the beginning of a new congregation that perhaps you cannot even imagine. But I can promise you this, you will be led there by God, not by human endeavor. And so let us all work and pray to make his paths straight. Amen.